Hi, second grade friends. It's another math lesson. And today you're going to be doing the second page of your numbers and buttons work, which came home in your packet. And we talked about numbers in expanded form the last time we gathered. And today we're going to do the second part, which is talking about buttons. And I happen to have my buttons here in my hand. I'm trying to see if I can get as close as I can. Buttons are those things that people who sew know how to do a lot better than me. I'm not a sewer, but the boy in the story that we're going to be working on today has a box filled with buttons. And buttons are things that attach to our clothes. I'm not wearing any buttons on my clothes today, but we're going to be making sure that we are doing the hard work of 2 math skills today, not just 1, it's a 2. In my video today, I'm going to be teaching you about 2 different things. First one is graphing, and the second one is about adding numbers together. So let's take a quick check-in with our growth mindset. Don't forget as you start to do math today that you can embrace the power of yet. You might not be a master at this stuff yet, but that doesn't mean you can't put forth your best effort. So make sure that you're doing that. All right, let's talk learning target. And my learning target today is, dun, 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 here it is. I am learning to add many, which means more than 2. Usually we see an equation and we have like 2 numbers and we put them together, but that word many means I'm going to have more than 1 number and I'm going to be adding them together. I'm learning to add many numbers together. And the reason that we're going to be adding many numbers together is because if I look on our activity sheet, first thing that popped into my mind was upload to Dojo. So make sure this is when you give it to your teacher. But the first thing you're going to do is you'll see that in the story, there is a character named Dylan, and Dylan has a box of buttons, just like those buttons I showed you. And the first part of the job is you're going to look at this table. Table's a fancy way of how we organize some information or some data. And you're going to be using those totals to make what's called a bar graph. And a bar graph, I'm going to hold up one of my helper cards. A bar graph is a graph that uses vertical, which means it goes this way, or horizontal bars to show how large a specific value of something might be. And this helper card has an example of a horizontal bar graph, and you are going to be creating a vertical bar graph. So you'll see along the bottom here, it has the color red, and you'll see that when he sorted his buttons, his counting collection, he ended up with 14 red buttons. So you're going to color in. You can use the colors that match the colors on the bottom, or you could just use your colored pencil. You decide. Where I'm going to really focus today with our learning target, because this should be a review. We did a lot of practice with how to make graphs. So remember, bar graphs can go horizontal, which means this way. They can also go vertical, which means up and down. Okay? So first you're going to do your graph. And then the second part of stretching your math muscles is you are going to be adding the numbers together. And that's the part where I really want to focus in today. So let me switch my camera over so that we can look at some tips for adding some numbers together and do a practice one before you go to do your work today. Alrighty, friends, and we are learning to add many numbers together, which means more than 2. I want to remind you real quick that you are going to look at this activity, numbers and buttons, and you've made your bar graph, and then you look along the bottom and there's the 6 categories, and what you're going to have to do to figure out the answer to number 5, how many buttons are in all, and it says show your work. So I'm really zooming in on this one right here of how to show your work when we have to add all those numbers together. Okay, we have to have a strategy to keep ourselves organized. And that's where my tips come in handy. The number 1 tip says keep track. Somehow we're going to have to keep track of the numbers that we have added so that we can keep our work organized. These aren't the numbers that you're going to be adding today, but these are just some example numbers that I thought we could use to practice the strategy of adding many numbers together. The first tip, of course, says keep track, and you'll be watching me keep track as we do this practice. The next one says add the tens. And so when I look at this big long string of numbers, in this one, I can see that I have 20 and 4. I have a 10 and a 3. I have a 20 and a 3. I have a 10 and a 6. And then that one doesn't have any tens. And now I can quickly look
and I can see that if I just add the tens, 20 plus 10 plus 20 plus 10, ooh, these two I know would make another 20, so I could say 20, 40, 60. And so if I take this number and this number, that's the 20, then I have 40, and then I have 60. And to keep track, I've checked off this one, I've checked off that one, and that one. That's how I'm keeping track, okay? And now I'm going to add the ones. And the way I'm going to add the ones is I'm going to be thinking about and finding some friendly numbers that I could put together to help me add a little bit more efficiently. Well, here I can see that the 4 from the 24 and the 6 from the 16 gives me another 10. And so now I know that I have 70. And I can check that I've used this 6 and I've used this 4. Now, again, using facts that I know to solve my problem, I can see right here that this 3 and this 3 make a 6. I'm at 70, so I'm going to add the 6, and now my new total is 76. And I've used the 3 and the 3. So now I've first added some 10s, I added some 1s, I found a friendly number, and I was also using facts I know, like I found a double, I found a 10 fact. I'm looking at my list of numbers, and I've noticed, because I've done a good job of keeping track, that I've used both of the numbers in the digits of the 10s and the 1s here, and then I still have this 6 left over. So now my last equation to show my thinking would be I had 76, and I still have 6 more to add, and I'm wondering what that total would be. So, I bet some of you are already noticing, ooh, in 76 there's a 6, and then I see a 6 plus 6, which would be 12, and I could take this 7, which is not really a 7, it's a 70, change the equation to be 76, or 70 plus 12, and then I can see that my total would be 82 buttons in all. So again, friends, as you're doing this hard work of adding many numbers together, don't forget to use those helpful tips in order to keep track of your thinking.
All right, I hope with that example where you got to add some buttons together, we just worked it out together, and I reminded you of some helpful tips. Don't forget, you're going to use those helpful tips today in your work. You could pause it and actually keep the screen frozen if this helps you to have the tips right there handy. Don't forget that your job today, after you have made your bar graph, is down here in the space below. Show me how you came up with that total, okay? Your teachers can't wait to see your hard work of adding many, 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 many numbers together. Make sure you have a growth mindset as you do your work. Take breaks if you need to. Keep that positive mental attitude and be proud of all of the hard work that you're doing in math. I know your teachers are proud of you, and we can't wait to see your math uploaded to Dojo today. Have a great one.